Thanks for tuning in at Brackeys.
Hello everyone and welcome to video number 6 in the How to Program in C# course. I'm really sorry that it's been so long since the last one, but I've been really busy with some important projects, so I haven't really had time to do that many videos. But seriously, cool stuff coming. So in today's video, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at what is called for loops, which will greatly expand on what we can do with our code. So important lesson today. And yeah, let's just dig right into it. If my voice sounds a little weird, it's because I've just been sick and yeah, so that might come through on the recording. So as always, I've opened up Xamarin Studio, and if you have any questions throughout this video, you can head over to forum.brackeys.com. So if you find this code here to be a bit difficult to understand or whatever, just head over there, and many people, including me, are ready to answer your questions. So first off, I'm just going to answer the question that the challenge that I gave you in the last video, which was to create this program where you need to multiply two numbers and then give the user responses based on just how well you did. So first off, we have different random messages for when the user answers correctly. And then we have different messages for depending on how close he gets to answering correctly. So let me just quickly walk you through this code. This is not going to take too long. So as always, we are creating a random number generator, and we are generating two random numbers. Then we are prompting the user to write out the answer to these questions. And we are collecting the answer in a int variable. Then we are checking if it's correct, and if it is, we are printing out some different responses based on another random number. And if it's not correct, we are taking the difference, which I just called def, storing it in an integer value. And you can see that I simply take the answer and subtract the correct answer. So this is the user answer, and this is of course the solution. num1 times num2 should hopefully give us the solution. And then I'm wrapping this in a math.absolute statement. And what this does, it simply converts everything inside these two parentheses, so which means everything in here. It simply takes that and takes the absolute value of that, meaning that if it's a negative number, it's simply going to multiply with -1. So this number will always be positive. So now we have the absolute value, which is our difference. And we're saying that if it's simply equal to 1, we are going to write so close. If it's more or less than or equal to 10, we are going to write you can do better than that. Or if it's more than 10, we can then write you are not even close. Cool, so now we can just go ahead and delete most of this code. I'm simply going to keep the main function and all of the class and namespace stuff, and then the console.read key. Now, what I'm going to go ahead and do here is simply show you what a for loop can do. So let's say that we want to print out some numbers, each on a separate line. So let's say we want to print out the numbers 1 through 10 on each on a separate line in the console. So what we would do here is we would write for, and then we would write int I equals 1, I is less than or equal to 10, I plus plus. And then inside of the brackets that we are now going to make here, and simply type after me right now, and then I'll explain exactly what this means in a sec. Inside of these two brackets, we're then going to write console.writeLine, and then we are simply going to give it I. So if we go ahead and hit play right now, you can see that it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So let me just explain you quickly why this is doing just the thing that it is. So a for loop is basically a way to iterate through, to do something a certain number of times. And we do this by first making a variable. Here we're calling it I. and we are setting it equal to a starting number. In this case, we're setting it equal to 1. Then we are saying that we want to do whatever's inside these brackets as long as this condition is met. So as long as I is less than or equal to 10, we want to execute this line here. And then right here is what is called the increment or decrement stage. And this is where we put in what we want to happen with I after the loop has gone through. So after we've written out the line, it will then increment, which means add on just 1 to the I here. So this is basically the same as if we just leave that out, and then down here, whoops, we still need the semicolon there, I'm pretty sure. And then we just down here say I plus equals 1. That's exactly the same. It's simply to make sure that I doesn't just stay 1 and it will never reach 10. It's to make sure that it's incremented, so we add 1 onto I every single time we go through the loop. And then what we can do inside of the two brackets is we can then use I for different things. So now we have complete access to this I. So in this case, we're simply writing it out on a line. So again, with all that in mind, we are creating a for loop, which means that we can do an action a certain number of times. We are creating a variable called I and setting it equal to 1. We're saying that we want this to run as long as I is not above 10. And then we are simply incrementing I after each iteration. So now let's hit play. And again, you can see that that is indeed what's happening. We have 1, 2, 3, and it's just incrementing each time all the way through up to 10. Cool. So let's say we wanted to do something more with this. We could go ahead and set int I equal to, let's say, 0. And we could make this maybe run up to, so let's say just I is less than, and then 100. This is another very common way to write for loops, that instead of starting int I at 1, we start it at 0, and then we simply say that as long as I is less than 100, so this is going to print out again 100, but it's different numbers, but it's going to start at 0. And this is a very common way of thinking about for loops, the way that we start at 0, because that's what the computer often does. And we're going to see that when we work with lists and arrays, because then we're going to use for loops to access different parts of arrays. So let's say we have a list of students. We can use for loops to go through each student represented by an index, which is here shortened by I, and we can access their information. So you're going to see that in a later video. So what I want you to do until next video is to create a for loop yourself that will print out all the even numbers and only the even numbers from 1 until 100. So in order to do this, you're going to need a basic for loop. And also, you need to know how to determine whether or not a number is even or uneven. And the way you do this programmatically is, say, if you have two numbers, let's say 2 and 2, and you want to check if this one here is even, what we do is we use this percentage sign. And this is a math operator, just like minus, plus, or division. But what this percentage sign will do is it will return the remainder of a division. So it's going to say 2 divided by 2. That's completely even to do. So that's going to simply return 0. So if this was not an even number, let's say this was 3, this is not going to return 0. So simply take the value that we are checking, let's call this x, and use the percentage sign, which will return again the remainder of a division, and the number that we want to divide by is going to be 2, and then we can simply check if that is equal to 0. Well, then indeed the number is even. So with that in mind, try and see if you can go ahead and create this for loop, or if not, again, head over to forum.brackeys.com, where I, among many others, are waiting to answer your questions. So again, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.